Once upon a time, in a serene village nestled by a vast, tranquil lake, lived a little frog named Felix. The village was known for its unique floating season, a time of year when the waters of the lake rose, submerging the surrounding lands and turning the entire village into a floating paradise. Felix was an adventurous frog, always curious about the changing seasons and their effects on his home. As the floating season approached, Felix could feel the excitement bubbling within him. This was his favorite time of the year, a period when the world transformed, and new adventures awaited. One bright morning, as the first rays of the sun kissed the lake, Felix hopped out of his cozy lily pad home. The water level had already begun to rise, and Felix could see the villagers preparing for the floating season. They tied their homes to sturdy posts to keep them from drifting away and gathered supplies to last through the watery months. Felix decided to explore the newly transformed landscape. He leaped from one floating object to another, greeting his friends along the way. There was Lily the turtle, who enjoyed sunbathing on a large, floating log, and Benny the fish, who darted through the clear waters, excitedly showing off his swimming skills. As Felix ventured further, he discovered a part of the lake he had never seen before. There, amidst the floating debris, he found a small, deserted island that had become an isolated patch of land due to the rising waters. Intrigued, Felix hopped onto the island and began exploring. He soon discovered a hidden cave, its entrance partially submerged. With his heart pounding with excitement, Felix decided to investigate. Inside the cave, he found an old, weathered chest, partially buried in the sand. Using all his strength, he pried it open to reveal a collection of ancient artifacts and a mysterious map. The map depicted the lake and surrounding areas, but with strange markings and symbols that Felix had never seen before. Determined to uncover the secrets of the map, Felix returned to the village to seek help from the wise old owl, Oliver, who lived in the tallest tree by the lake. Oliver studied the map carefully and explained that it showed the locations of hidden treasures scattered around the lake, treasures that could only be found during the floating season. With Oliver's guidance, Felix set out on a grand adventure, following the map's clues and uncovering long-lost treasures. Along the way, he faced various challenges, from navigating treacherous waters to solving intricate puzzles. Each discovery brought him closer to understanding the rich history of his village and the significance of the floating season. Word of Felix's adventures spread throughout the village, inspiring other animals to join him. Together, they explored, learned, and celebrated the wonders of their unique floating world. Felix's bravery and curiosity had not only uncovered hidden treasures but had also brought the community closer together, fostering a sense of unity and shared purpose. As the floating season came to an end and the waters receded, the village returned to its normal state. However, the memories of the adventures and the bonds forged during that special time lingered on. Felix had shown that even in the most familiar places, new discoveries awaited those who dared to explore and embrace the changes brought by the floating season. And so, every year, as the waters began to rise, the village eagerly anticipated the floating season, knowing that it was a time for adventure, discovery, and the celebration of their extraordinary home. Once upon a time, in a lush, vibrant forest, there lived a joyful little frog named Frankie. Frankie loved many things about his home, but what he loved most of all was the rain. Every time dark clouds gathered in the sky and the first drops began to fall, Frankie's heart leapt with joy. One particularly hot and dry summer, the forest was thirsty for rain. The streams ran low, and the plants drooped under the relentless sun. Frankie spent his days near the shrinking pond, longing for the refreshing touch of rain. He knew the rain would not only bring relief to the forest but also fill his little world with life and happiness once more. One afternoon, as Frankie sat on a rock watching the sky, he noticed the clouds starting to gather. A cool breeze began to blow, and the scent of impending rain filled the air. Excitement surged through him. Frankie croaked loudly, signaling to his friends that the long-awaited rain was finally coming. As the first drops fell, Frankie hopped around in glee. The forest came alive with the sound of rain pattering on leaves, the gentle rumble of thunder, and the soft rustle of creatures seeking shelter. Frankie, however, had no intention of hiding. He embraced the rain, letting it wash over him, feeling each drop rejuvenate his spirit. With the rain pouring down, the pond began to fill up again. Frankie dove into the water, splashing joyfully. He swam and leaped, reveling in the cool, refreshing water. His friends, inspired by his enthusiasm, joined in the celebration. The turtles slid into the pond, the birds sang from the trees, and the insects buzzed with newfound energy. After the rain eased into a gentle drizzle, Frankie climbed onto a floating leaf and looked around. The forest was transformed. The plants stood tall and vibrant, their leaves glistening with raindrops. The air was fresh and cool, filled with the sweet scent of damp earth. Frankie felt a deep sense of happiness and contentment. The rain had brought the forest back to life, and with it, his joy had returned. That evening, as the rain stopped and the sun began to set, casting a warm golden glow over the glistening forest, Frankie sat with his friends by the pond. They shared stories and laughed, grateful for the rain that had brought them together. Frankie realized that happiness was not just in the rain itself but in the moments of connection and joy it brought to their lives. From that day on, every time the clouds gathered and the rain began to fall, Frankie would lead his friends in a joyous celebration. He knew that rain was more than just water from the sky, it was a reminder of the beauty of life, the power of nature, and the happiness that comes from embracing the world around us. And so, Frankie the Frog lived happily, always looking forward to the next rain, knowing it would bring him and his forest home endless joy. Once upon a time, in the heart of a dense, green forest, there lived a cheerful little frog named Felix. Felix loved many things about his home, but nothing compared to the joy he felt when it rained. Rain transformed the forest into a magical place, and Felix knew that the real fun began when the rain stopped and the forest came alive with new energy. One sweltering summer day, the forest animals were struggling with the heat. The pond where Felix lived had shrunk, and the usually lively forest felt subdued. Felix sat on a rock, looking up at the clear blue sky, longing for the rain to bring relief to his home. As if hearing his thoughts, dark clouds began to gather. A cool breeze swept through the forest, rustling the leaves and filling the air with the promise of rain. Felix's heart leapt with joy. He croaked excitedly, signaling to his friends that rain was on its way. The first drops of rain fell gently at first, then turned into a steady downpour. Felix hopped around in delight, feeling the cool, refreshing rain wash over him. The forest came alive with the sound of raindrops hitting leaves, the rumble of thunder in the distance, and the joyful chorus of animals welcoming the rain. As the pond filled up with fresh rainwater, Felix's friends began to emerge. There was Lily the turtle, who loved floating on the surface of the water, and Benny the fish, who darted around happily, feeling rejuvenated by the cool water. Even Oliver the wise old owl, who usually stayed in his tree, swooped down to join the celebration. When the rain finally stopped, the forest was transformed. The air was fresh and cool, the plants stood tall and vibrant, and the pond was once again full and sparkling. Felix and his friends gathered at the edge of the pond, their spirits high and their hearts filled with joy. Felix led the way, diving into the pond with a splash. Lily and Benny followed, and soon the water was alive with laughter and play. They swam, splashed, and chased each other, their happiness echoing through the forest. The rain had not only refreshed their home but had also brought them closer together. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the glistening forest, Felix climbed onto a lily pad and looked around at his friends. They were all smiling and laughing, grateful for the rain that had brought them this moment of pure joy. Felix realized that the best part of the rain was not just the water itself but the happiness it brought to him and his friends. From that day on, every time the clouds gathered and the rain began to fall, Felix and his friends would eagerly await the moment when they could come together in the pond and celebrate. Rain had become a symbol of renewal and joy, a time for them to connect and create beautiful memories. And so, Felix the Frog lived happily with his friends, always looking forward to the next rain, knowing it would bring them endless moments of happiness and togetherness.